You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. All right, folks, welcome to the Dangerous Liberty Podcast, where we know that safety at the expense of liberty is slavery, and where all of you are always the special guest of the show. We love doing these live things. We want to make sure that you guys get to talk, interact, ask questions. We read your comments, all those things. Make sure you like, subscribe. For those of you on Rumble, we will definitely, we always refer to you as the Lost Boys and Girls over on Rumble. I would almost say, as much as I hate to say this, for the live streams, it's probably better that you guys stay on YouTube for now. We just don't see the comments. We try to monitor the comments, through the phones and things like that, but it is difficult. We got a lot to talk about tonight. I got a really, I think, an interesting thing that I will end up posting later on, but you all are going to be the first to see it. Something that I just did a video of just a couple hours ago. I think is really important on this whole AGR lower window suppressed theory nonsense thing that we're going to hopefully put to bed. Every time I think we put this to bed, people are like, well, just because those aren't muzzle flashes doesn't mean that they're not actually shooting from there. Okay. All right, we'll continue to work on that. What I will say is, again, super thanks. Those are going to get priority, but we will try to get to as many comments as possible. I want to say hello to everybody up there: Chad Wyckoff, Jeff Johnson, Top G Mindset Coach, Carol Brock, Seeker, John, Raw Bacon, Jessica Bork. 2013, we're still here, and all the other 200 or so that are on this right now. Make sure you say hello, and we appreciate it. Again, like, subscribe, all those things. But I can't stress enough. I've always wanted to do these live podcasts, right? Where, number one, if we interview somebody or something like that, I think there's some authenticity if you do those live. Somebody's saying there's a terrible echo. I will see what I can do about that. Let me check my audio settings. We got echo cancellation on.
I'm laughing at comments on Rumble.
Yeah. Anyways, let me know if anyone else is getting terrible echo, or is it just Rubicork? We will try to fix that. The other thing too, for those of you guys that have been missing the gun content, well, you're about to get some more gun content, and don't worry. That is not going away. We've been a little bit preoccupied with this, but we're going to continue to talk about training. We've always talked about politics. And I do think, folks, I think this event on July 13th, this attempted assassination on President Trump, is one of the most pivotal moments in our history. I think it is super important. That's why I'm covering it. It's super important to me. It is not something that's normally in our wheelhouse of what we do. But I think it's so critical of what's going on. So thank you all for letting me know that there's no echo, and whoever that was, fix your audio.
He said, it's my problem. Sorry.
All right. No big deal.
Hey, at least he took accountability, right?
Yes. Thank you. The other thing we'll talk about tonight is tomorrow we will be doing a trip to Butler. This is going to be a planning trip. We'll get more into that. Going to be fun. Going to get some, you know what? It'll be super cool to finally get on the ground and look at some of those things in real life. We're going to continue to fill out the ranks of this Project 713. And as critical, I think, as this Project 713 is for this incident, really, this is Project 713 in my mind is not necessarily for this situation. It's for the ones that are coming. And hopefully we can even go back and look at some of the things. Don't you ever laugh at
I'm
me.
laughing.
I know.
I'm laughing at Jeff.
Oh,
Jeff's
Jeff.
making fun of me.
Jeff Johnson up there in the comments.
Jeff, just remember when you want that Garmin.
That's right.
I'll remember you're making fun of me.
But, this is the Project 713 is for the future. This is not going to be the last event. This was in the first event that we want truth and accountability. And that's going to be our model. Truth and accountability is the point behind Project 713. And what I want is an infrastructure and people in place to where when another one of these situations take place, we're going to be prepared to respond. And that's what it's about. And, hopefully get to the truth. And the other thing I don't care what side you're on, 2-shooter, 1-shooter, grassy knoll, 47 shooters on the water tower. Like at the end of the day, we got to get down to some hard evidence. And I think, well, you know, everybody is welcome to believe what they want, right? But I do think that we got to start sanity checking some of these theories. And that's what, to me, was the big deal when I started getting all of these videos and pictures sent to me that I had no idea where they came from. And that's why I wanted to debunk that theory and some of the other theories that we've debunked, whether it's the person on the water tower or some of these other things. I think it's really important because we have limited amount of information, that with the information that we have, that we separate the wheat from the chaff. That's how we get to the truth. We will talk about shell casings. We'll talk about all those other things. And yes, you know, this is what I was not looking. This is the first time that I have stepped into this arena to address any sort of, I don't know, conspiracy theory. Whatever you want to call these things, right? And I am shocked at the amount of absolute frauds that are out there.
I think we also, speaking of frauds and grifters, goes back to, you can't let every little thing you hear become a distraction from what you
100%.
actually need to look at.
100%.
And I feel like there's a lot of that going on.
There is.
Where there's a lot of different rumors and theories, and people are getting very distracted and going down the wrong rabbit holes. I
agree to a lot of that. But one of the things, what I've done is I've looked at like the predominant things that are being said, and like, no, that's horse shit. This is horse shit. And this is horse shit.
Or that's true.
And part of the problem, and you guys tell me if you agree, is, you know, when all this happened, there was so much attention on like the first 2 or 3 days. And that is when we had the least amount of information. The information that we had the lowest fidelity of that information. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of people still in the comments on YouTube and things like that, where they were paying like, they had like this laser like focus. And so they have some things that even the people that originally propagated or put forth these theories, those very people have now debunked them or said, hey, you know what, I was incorrect on or whatever else. And so there's so much bad information that's kind of baked into the cake now that I do think it's really important to separate that and keep a record of what is actual evidence and what is not, and what is, you know, pure speculation. Because what we're doing, what I'm seeing time and time again, is we have a speculative thing that we say, and then we add a whole bunch of other speculation on top of that to support that speculative theory to begin with, where there's never been any evidence to support that to begin with. So, and we will talk about.
I think there's some things where some of that speculation comes out of good intentions, where someone's like, well, maybe this happened. Maybe this could explain that. I think, and then it turns into, it goes from a maybe to, well, I think that, you know, this happened and here's the evidence, and they create some evidence, but they come up with other things to support this one thing that they thought of.
Well, and I think some of these things people started off like realizing, hey, this is speculation, but this is, you know, to me, it makes sense in my mind.
Sure.
And then like a week later, they've said it so much, like it's fact in their mind.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, let's do this. Here's what we're going to do. I got a video I shot just a couple hours ago for you guys. I think this will be, well, let's hope that this will be kind of some definitive word on suppressed shots and everything. And then we'll talk a little bit, because part of this, the main reason this whole suppressed shot thing has continued on is people don't have any experience with that. And I get it. Like, they know what they know about suppressors and subsonic rounds from the movies, and it doesn't work like that, folks. So let's play this video and we will go from there. So let's jump right into this. Hey folks, Gary here with Paramount, and today we're hopefully going to put the whole, I don't know, AGR building, shooting from the lower level, suppressed, ridiculous theory to bed. What I have, as you all can see, luckily for me, I have a range right outside of this window, and this rifle is an 11.5-inch SBR suppressed. What we have right here is 223 subsonic rounds. I know there's been people out there say that these don't exist. Apparently they don't know how to use Google, because you can find them very easily. So we're gonna be shooting some rounds out of this, and while this is being shot, I'm gonna film from 84 feet away, which is about what I could see on Google Earth, the distance from the AGR building to the fence line. I'm also trying to approximate the same angle that entire video was filmed from. But what we're gonna learn from this, number one, I have an audio meter that I'll be using. So we're gonna actually take some decibel readings and see how loud a completely subsonic suppressed rifle is from that distance. And I'm also gonna be filming, and we're gonna see what sort of muzzle flash that we get from this. And I have the gas settings set to where it will produce the maximum amount of muzzle flash out of the suppressed rifle and the subsonic ammo. I'm gonna show you what that sounds like and looks like recording from that distance with this phone without altering the audio whatsoever. I'm not gonna boost the levels, not gonna do anything else. I'm gonna show you those sound signatures in real time, but I'm also gonna play those sound signatures again at 1/10 of the normal speed, like certain people are doing, so that they can take whatever sound that is and turn it into a sound and make it sound like something that it is not. But you're gonna be able to see this for yourself, what a muzzle flash looks like out of a suppressor shooting subsonic. You're gonna hear what a subsonic round sounds like from the distance that video was actually taken at. All right, folks, so I'm on this sketchy ass ladder so I can actually, again, I'm just trying to approximate the same height in relationship to the window and the camera that we saw in Dave's video. Right here, I do have a sound meter. I'm gonna turn this on. We're gonna get the max decibel reading from each shot. And again, just tell me if you can hear the shot. Tell me if you can see any sort of muzzle flash, and then we'll go from there. All right, send it. Oh, and by the way, that gun is locked into a tripod, so this is safe. We got 78.5. Send it. $69.3. Folks, this is so clear from here, it's not even funny. Also, look to see, and I'm sure I'm gonna be zooming in so that you can try to see some sort of muzzle flash. All right, send me another one. $73.3. Okay, look, the silliest argument I've heard was that you need to stretch the audio out 10x to make a subsonic round sound like a subsonic round suppressed. So here we have a subsonic round suppressed with a dialed down to, or extended out to, it's at 0.10. So there we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get up close and try to film this as close, pretty close from a safe distance, so that we can see what we can get from a... Yeah, Matt Timney's saying, I see no muzzle flash. That's the freaking point. Look, even if I was shooting supersonic rounds out of that short barrel, a short barrel has less dwell time, therefore less powder is burned, so more of the powder is burned outside the barrel, creating a larger muzzle flash. With this suppressor, or any decent suppressor out there, folks, you're not going to see a muzzle flash during daylight hours, especially with a suppressed round, even with supersonic. Now, with subsonic rounds, you have a lot less powder. The dwell time, even in this 11.5-inch barrel, the dwell time in that, which means the time that powder is burning, all right, it is going to burn up almost all that powder. There's not going to be a flash outside of the barrel. I mean, this is a well-known fact. It just doesn't. I don't know why people don't understand this. Muzzle flash perspective. Let's see how much muzzle flash we can get from this. All right, I'm not taking any sound readings or anything, so you can send it. Send me one. All right. Send me another one. Let's get a little closer. Send another one. All right. And you know what? Let's get one more. We'll get a sound reading. I don't know. We're about 3 feet from here right now. Just for giggles. All right, that was 73.5. All right, no, lock and clear. Put it on safe. All right. So, I don't know what else to say. I mean, hopefully that lets you know what's going on.
Somebody said probably a time traveler with a musket. Oh, I love the comment section.
A blunderbuss, because that's what it would take to replicate something like what they were saying. And look, I knew immediately when I saw that supposed flash or whatever else is going on, that was never anything that looked like muzzle flash to me. It looked like a glare. It looked like a glare, and the window looked closed. I don't know what else to say.
Jeff brings up a nice point. I need to go check this. Now that nice dresser has injection breast. Thank you, Jeff.
I will.
Now I get a new dresser.
Summer was not home during the filming of this show.
That's probably a good thing
for good reasons.
I have a quick response to John here. We can 100% consider this factually busted. John, it doesn't matter. I don't know if you've been over on Twitter, but there's not a lot of people that don't care about the facts. They don't care about what actually happened. They care about propagating their crackpot theories.
1914 in heaven, haven't learned nothing new. Well, you can't teach everybody. You can't teach some people anything. I don't know what to tell you. All right. Some of us didn't believe there was muzzle flash, but audio forensics picked up sounds identical to no, they didn't. First of all, the sounds. First of all, look, John, before things went off the rail, I extended him. I was like, look, if I said something that you disagree with, come on the show. We'll talk about it. And he's like, no, you just don't get it. You have to extend that audio to 0.110. You have to play that back. I have screenshots of that. You got to play the audio to 0.10 to make something sound like a suppressed shot. He had to extend that audio 10x. All right. That is not that's like photoshopping something there right in front of you and saying, hey, look, you see this? This is not a stick, but hold on, let me do some things. And I'm going to Photoshop this a little bit. Look, there it is. Now it's a gun. So we went from, but they do it right. He did it right in front of you. So I don't know what to say. And look, we'll talk about the audio forensics. I spent 2.5 hours on the phone yesterday with the top audio analyst, the owner of the top audio analyst company in the US. So they do audio. They actually create audio for different games, for Hollywood. They do forensic analysis of all kinds of different things. Spent 2.5 hours on the phone with him. And I'm like, hey, look, at the end of the day, the problem here is that people think this audio analysis is definitive. And I'll tell you right now, he believes that there's a different sound signature from the 3 shots to the 5 shots. That's what his conclusion is. But as we went through it, I was like, does that mean that there definitively was 2 guns? And he said, no. And I was like, hey, we don't know what direction those other 5 shots went. And that's the problem. That is, the audio analysis is the only solid evidence, or the only evidence that points to a second shooter. The only actual evidence that points to a second shooter. And I will say that the evidence is compelling, but it is not 100% definitive. It's just not. And the people that are doing it, the actual sound guys themselves. So, if we take that off the table, and at some point you got to look at the evidence in a totality of the evidence and say what makes sense without adding conjecture upon conjecture upon conjecture. And that's where I'm at on this. I'm completely open to being a second shooter. But what I think is a little bit crazy is we come to this conclusion that, hey, there's definitely a second shooter. And then we go around playing Where's Waldo until we put him in the right spot, or her in the right spot, or whatever else. And I agree with Rob down here. He says, it doesn't really matter if there was a second shooter at the end of the day. I agree with that. Do I think there was definitely a conspiracy? Yes. I think at a minimum, the conspiracy was to deny Trump, security assets.
To let stuff happen if it happened.
So that, who knows? Who knows? It's pure conjecture if I'm saying what their motives are. But, again, I've had my friend that was a former Secret Service guy. He's like, hey, this is what right looks like. What we had on July 13th, there was nothing even close to what right looked like. So, that's that. And we do have to kind of delineate evidence from conjecture. I hope, I kind of encourage you all to do that.
What do you think about this comment? It says, for me, the audio analysis is actually showing that if there was a second shooter, he would have been in almost the same spot.
So that is one thing that audio analyst told me. He's like, here's what I can tell you for sure, Gary, that two things. Number one, the audio is so close that that person would have to be almost in the exact same spot. And B, they would have to be shooting the exact same ammo in the exact same gun. So that's what he told me. And like, that's pretty hard to wrap your head around. The other thing with that is, the other part of that is I kind of lost my thought on that. I'll think of it here in a second. But yeah, there is explanations for almost everything that people have questions on, whether you're talking about, finding 3 pieces of brass and then, or finding 5 pieces of brass and finding the other 3. There's explanations for that. I think reasonable explanations for that. Doesn't mean, but, a lot of people just aren't willing to accept those. 1 month and no ballistics reports by the FBI. We are a broken nation. I agree with that.
Would anyone believe the ballistics report put out by the FBI? I don't think they would. They would take it with a huge chunk of salt, not a grain. And,
Well, and throw up Matt Timney's.
This one?
Yeah. Look, here's the thing. Here's the difference to me with JFK. And I 100% believe there was at least 2 shooters with the JFK assassination. I believe that the CIA, I think our own government killed JFK. The problem, or the solution to a problem that we had with the JFK shooting, why people started looking for evidence of a second shooter, was because we had this magic bullet theory, right? We had trajectories that didn't make sense from coming only from one gun. Like right now, we don't have that. That's not a problem that we have. We have trajectories that, quite frankly, only line up from one position. And, I know some people are going to throw that out and say different things. The other thing that I've been seeing a lot about that I think, people are saying, hey, there's proof. I saw this on Twitter a lot. Look, the north sniper position was taking fire. Folks, there is absolutely zero evidence that they were taking fire. Those guys flinched to gunshots that were pointed in their direction. I don't, there's been speculation or rumor to be said that, they heard sonic cracks. They knew that rounds were close. I have asked the people that I know that have contacts within the Secret Service. Nothing like that has come out. I don't think that is a fact. Most of us would flinch. If again, there's a big difference between if you're standing to the side of gunfire or you are basically downrange of gunfire. That is noticeable, whether you hear the sonic crack or not. And that's another thing. Like, I have had rounds impact definitely very close to my head where I never heard the sonic crack. I heard rounds where I did see the sonic crack or hear a sonic crack that impacted, a little further than I would think that you would actually hear that. So, there's a lot of things that, a lot of different variables there that I think we need to take into account.
What about this? If shots were 100 yards away from Dave's position, his ears wouldn't hear the pop of a 300 black.
So this is a problem that we have in period. This is one of the biggest things that I think about when somebody says, hey, there was a second shooter. Number one, if you were, 30 yards away, which that fence line was 30 yards away, there's lots of people 30 yards away. Even somebody shooting suppressed, you would be able to tell the difference, and you would be able to hear that and see it. Like, gunshots aren't, that's not what they do. They still give off a percussion. They're still very noticeable. The other thing is, like, there were so many people around that AGR building and around so many different places that, like, to suddenly pretend that, all these human beings don't have stereoscopic hearing and don't have senses that, like, I can tell if gunshots came over there and I can tell if gunshots came over there, up there, down here, like, those things. And there hasn't been anybody that has come out that I'm aware of that's come out and said, hey, you know what? I heard gunshots coming from right there.
And both of the eyewitnesses that we've personally interviewed were very 99.9% sure that gunfire came from that one spot.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean that there aren't people out there. I don't know what Dave's opinion is. I plan on talking to him tomorrow if he's around. We've been chatting a little bit here and there, and I hope to link up with him, talk to him, and hear his side and what his perceptions of things were.
Here's another one. A suppressed rifle from further back would not be heard. I think.
So if it was 500 to 1,000 meters,
you would still hear it, right?
If it was suppressed, number one, if it was supersonic and it was suppressed, you would still hear it.
Yeah. Number
two, if it was subsonic suppressed, that round wouldn't get there with enough velocity to kill anybody. 500 to 1,000 meters, like, and this is what I'm talking about. Like, how far do we got to look back and how
to make this fit?
Like we have a conclusion, and now we're just trying to find the evidence to fit that conclusion. I think that's the wrong way to approach this personally. I've always looked at the evidence and I was completely open to a second shooter, but there's enough about that.
All right, let's if phones were taken, is it possible that those videos on phones confirming second shooter cells are still in custody?
I mean, maybe, but it still doesn't remove the human experience. Right. I still think that anybody we had hundreds of people. This didn't happen in a vacuum. And I think somebody would have said, no, I heard shots coming from this window.
Or they haven't given my phone back when I'm 99% sure I have, heard something different. I think somebody would have come forward.
Yeah. And I mean, look, do I think that the FBI and anybody else and other intel agencies are absolutely capable and willing to manipulate, phone data that you turn into them? Sure. Doesn't mean that it happened. And it doesn't mean because that I believe that there was a second shooter in the JFK situation that there has to be a second shooter here. I mean, I know it's a super unpopular opinion. The way that I see this right now is that I think this could have happened in any of Trump's rallies going way back. And what we had was we had enough some coincidence, and somebody willing to take advantage of the vulnerabilities. I know we're talking about, people talk about, well, the local law enforcement was in that building. They should have been looking. Yeah, they should have. But what chances are they didn't take this very seriously either. They probably were in there freaking YouTubing it up, Facebooking it up. They're like, hey, the Secret Service has this handled. I mean, those are all very real possibilities, and definitely a possibility that has a higher likelihood than some of the things that people are proposing. Let's see what else we got there.
I'm trying to sift through. This is a good point here. Did you see this one?
I did.
5,000 miles. That's probably true.
It is true.
Somebody's brought this up a couple of times.
Hold on, let me see this real quick. What is that? Did you see footage of the two snipers outside the AGR building swapping something outside the door? I didn't. No, I don't think I did see that. And I mean, here's I love this. Yeah, I'm a glowy.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not great at it.
Ryan on the water there. Go back to fishing, bud.
I have an opinion that doesn't suit yours, so I'm the glowy. I got it. Look, folks, again, I know
straight out of the liberal playbook.
I know a lot of you all are just tuning in, but there's also a lot of people that have been here for a long time. I am one of the most, number one, I love this country more than anything in this world. I was, willing to go on to high-risk missions, do special operations, and was happily and went on many missions. I 100% believed I wasn't coming back from.
You don't owe some of these people an explanation.
I know. But
the people that know you know who you are.
The other part of this is I have been the most outspoken critic of the U.S. government. I think the ATF needs to be banned. I think that our rights are constantly stepped on, and that's how I feel about it. So if you think just because I have an opinion that I don't know, is a common sense approach to the actual evidence, then, I don't know what to tell you.
And if someone's first response that they disagree with you is to call you a name, then they're in kindergarten. I'm sure they're going to call me a name now.
I 100% agree with. And this is something that I talked to somebody I was texting last night. One thing absolutely is that even whether it's the footage up on the roof, like every person up there looked like they had never done law enforcement before, like from the Fed that was on the roof. I don't know if he was Secret Service or FBI. My inclination is probably FBI. To the cops up there, like they're all like looking at each other, like, "Hey,
what do we do now?
What do you want us to do? What do we got to do?"
Yeah.
That is, it's 100% a cluster, and very amateurish to say the least. We do have proof of, is the media ran the most effective hate campaign? I agree with that 100%. And I've been speaking on this for many years. The media
is complicit in this attempt.
On this podcast, especially, you know, most of the videos that I did in the past, they've been primarily firearms and training and self-defense and those things. But this podcast that we've been doing every Wednesday for a long time is where I've always gotten political. And I've said this the same thing, that they have indoctrinated an entire generation for 8 years. People that, just like, you know, this shooter. You know, this guy has been indoctrinated for 8 years, from the time he was a child till, you know, the time that, you know, we had a round go through his brain parts. He's been told that this is the worst thing to ever happen in America, that this guy is Hitler, that they're, you know, the most, literally the insinuation is that the most patriotic thing that you could do would be to take this guy out. That's really the insinuation with what they've been saying for a really long time. Maybe it was all ruse. Someone get close enough to use one of those Russian poison umbrellas. That's another real possibility. Tommy G posted a video today about a guy that did video evidence that one of the camera guys was the actual shooter and Crooks was a decoy. You know, it's funny that you mentioned, I would love to see that video. To that guy that I was talking to, that owns the audio analysis company. That's one of the things I said. I was like, you know what? I mean, if somebody, because we were talking about the fact that the media has been the biggest enemy to Trump. Look, the unholy trinity of propaganda that we have right now is the DNC, the media, and the U.S. government. They have been in complete coordination, whether it was Hunter Biden laptop, whether it was the Russia hoax, whatever it is, all the different things that we've talked about, hands up, don't shoot. You name it. They have been a trinity of propaganda, and they have been stroking each other, doing all the same thing. They've been in unison from going way back.
Bet $1 million Crooks never had a girlfriend.
Yeah, I think you have good odds.
Somebody said, what is a glowy?
Peter, a glowy is a reference saying that you are a government asset, that you're a government propagandist. That's what a glowy.
Undercover operative that operate in extreme spaces. Where's your extreme space, Gary?
I'm looking through footage all the time. One of the things, folks, if you will continue to send us emails to dlpodcast at Paramount Tactical. Maybe we typed that down in there. dlpodcast at ParamountTactical.com. A couple of things we have going on. We still need some people for admin to maybe sort through some of these emails that we're getting in, go through this information, and kind of, again, just start weeding through some of that. I've gotten a lot of good stuff. The other thing that we need is, there's a whole bunch of people that we need. We need people that can go through evidence, that we can get together, once a month or so, and go over all this stuff. Everything from admin to field analysts, if you have some sort of investigative background or any skills and abilities and the time that you can donate to this effort and efforts in the future. Or if you have information, you have footage. There's a lot of people. I was just watching a video the other day on the west side of the AGR building, which I think is where a lot of answers will come from. The person taking that footage wasn't good, but there was like 20 people in front of him with all their cameras out, zoomed in on crooks. So we haven't seen that footage. I haven't seen any of that west side footage, or very little of it. So there's a lot of information out there. So if there's somebody out there that was an eyewitness, would like to talk, shoot an email to that email address. If you have video footage that hasn't been seen or that you would like me to take a look at, shoot an email to that email address.
This may be an answer for this supposed weapon swap here.
What's that? Where?
The 2 cops swapped out a Halligan bar, a tool for forced entry.
Yeah. And okay.
Could be.
Yeah. So and that's one of the things that keeps coming up that I've noticed, and hopefully you guys have too, and you don't have your blinders on completely, is like we have these theories that seem really cool like this, and then come to find out we don't even know if this is conclusive that that's indeed what happened. But a lot of people have been sucked into this lower window suppressed shots that people can't hear, shots that you can't hear unless you slow the audio down to 1/10 of the actual speed, not boost the audio. No. You got to take you got to take a piece of audio like this and then stretch it out 10x. So like every theory that people are latching onto, there ends up being a little bit of an explanation or something that explains a lot of these things away later on. And a lot of the theories that most of us thought 3 days into this really fell apart, I think, for the most part.
Here's something. It says the other day you said a second shooter was not probable because he wouldn't miss a second shot. But if there's a second shooter, he would act non-professionally to simulate crooks. But then what would be the point of a second shooter if he wasn't there to actually assassinate Trump?
That's 4D chess, Alfredo. I don't know what to say to that. that is some
crazy
like
stuff going
then
on.
What's the
point of a second shooter?
Like guys, 100, like literally everybody on this, unless you are blind, I could get you guys out there at 140 yards with an AR, even with a red dot, and you would shoot it pretty easily. Now, with that being said, would you be able to do that under stress? Probably not. Would a professional be able to do those things under stress? Absolutely. They do stress shoots. As a sniper, like we did stress shoots all the time. We got our heart rates up. We were nervous. All these things, we had to make shots when it counted. And I know people said, hey, the first shot, Trump turned away. Yes, that's possible. I don't think a professional would have been aiming at his head anyhow. It is well known amongst people that do any sort of research that typically protectees are not going to be wearing any body armor. And we also know that Trump sure as hell is not wearing level 4 plates. If anything, he's wearing, level 3A soft armor that's not going to be stopped, that it's not going to stop 5.56. So if it was me shooting, so I have the greatest amount of wiggle room there, room for error, I'm aiming high in center chest. So whether he moves, and that's exactly why snipers are trained, don't do headshots unless it's under 100 yards, because the head moves too much. Like we can move it very quickly. Wind wasn't an issue, not at 140 yards with 5.56, just not. So even if he missed that first one, if it was me and there's some really good shooters on this feed that I know, if it was me or many other good shooters, even if I missed that first shot because of a fluke, Trump was up long enough to get a follow-up shot that would have ended his life very quickly. So
yeah, he definitely was up long enough.
that the idea that I like the second shooter is going to blow it. And that's the other thing too. Some people say the second shooter was the guy that shot the 5 rounds. Some people say the second shooter was the guy that shot the first 3 rounds, which I think is more believable. And then Crooks shot the 5 rounds that hit potentially nothing
because he was going to miss his chance
because he didn't have a target at that point. Yeah, like if Crooks was a patsy and I'm the pro shooter, I'm like, hey, look, dude, I'm going to shoot. After you hear me shoot, no more, like anything I shoot over 3 rounds, I want you to start firing as quickly as you can,
right? So
that the attention gets drawn to him.
Yeah,
or whatever you want the instructions to be. Buck fever is real. Dave down here, buck fever is a real thing, but it's something that most pro shooters get trained out of. And I think buck fever is what saved a version of it, is what saved Trump's life. I think we had a non-pro shooter, probably not a very good shooter, that missed. Please watch the 2-hour dash cam footage for every evident rifle swap. Thanks. I have been going through that footage. I got a couple of shout outs that I wanted to do real quick. Number one, Gray Investigations. I'm sure many of you are already following him. That guy has done some amazing work. I believe that is the correct. Been following him. He's commented on our channel a few times. Gray Investigates. If you're not following him, I highly suggest that you do. He's been putting together both imagery and coordinating all the different video footage. We just got back from vacation. I was on vacation all last week. Someone was super happy that I was still making videos.
I got to spend so much time with you.
But I was trying to get as much done as I could. So Gray investigates. And the other thing, I want to give a public shout out to NWK Photography. He sent me, before some of the stuff was released, he actually sent me some of the photos that I used in the video footage that I posted on X. So anyways, I actually got some stuff coming his way because I appreciate that. And I forgot to do that at first, and it wasn't intentional. So anyways, I'm glad he called me out because I'm happy to share, whatever with anybody. It really doesn't matter to me. Yeah. The way that Gray stitches all this audio together, and then on the same time, he pulls it out, you kind of zooms out, and he shows you on a map where everybody is and the direction they're heading, and really paints a picture of what is going on in real time better than anything that I've seen. So really good. So
being on the ground tomorrow, what's your biggest goal there? Just to kind of get a lay of the land?
Yeah. So big goal tomorrow. Number one, I have a good friend and client going with me that is a drone operator. So one of the things that, at a minimum, that we're going to do is we're going to get some drone footage. If you guys have, and don't let me forget, I want to address this up here in just a second. If you guys have some suggestions of maybe some different angles or whatever else, again, send those to the DL podcast. I'll definitely try to look at those. If we got them here, I'll try to do that. But really, tomorrow is about a planning trip, right? So I want to go there. I want to see some stuff. Number one, I want to see if I can get access to the AGR building and the farm show.
You're a glowy. You can get access to anything.
I'm a glowy. I'm going to pull out I'm pulling out my creds. Pulling out my creds. Excuse me, I'm the FBI or whatever.
I think it's usually referring to a CIA operative.
I know. An asset, which is not necessarily an operative. But anyways,
whatever.
Irregardless.
That's not a word either.
I'm going to make it a word. I'm bringing it back. So yeah, I want to go there and get a planning trip. I also have some people kind of waiting in the wings, some audio guys. Chris Martins and I talked a little bit about it, and potentially some other folks that I want to have a plan put together for a follow-on trip. I want to make sure that I can make some point of contacts that hopefully I can coordinate access. I probably won't get access tomorrow to the AGR or the farm show. But hopefully I want to make some point of contact so that I can.
As far as inside the buildings, or you think
inside the buildings? I definitely want to get inside the buildings.
I just meant on tomorrow, the roof. You're probably not going to be able to get on the roof or get inside buildings.
I mean, if I can, I would. If somebody's like, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sure that place has been crawling with all kinds of people trying to get in.
So I've talked to a couple of people that live there, and they said it's been nuts. As a matter of fact, one of the guys has a friend that used to work there. And he still has contacts there, and I guess the company got sold. But the point is I want to get as much information. I also want to, if there's anybody out there that would like to do an interview or to talk, we can do it off the record or whatever else. I don't really care. If you have any information and you live in the area, let me know. Shoot me an email, or you throw it down in the comments too. But you can shoot me an email. I definitely want to meet up with you. I already made contact with the sheriff, Butler sheriff. We kind of been missing each other back and forth. I'm going to go out there, talk to them. I would love to be able to get some discussions with the local sheriff's department, Butler PD. I'm definitely going to be filing FOIA requests for all their footage and other documents. I'm going to attempt to do that. Never done FOIA requests before, but we're going to give it a shot. Good old college try. And, I'm probably missing some stuff, but that's the other reason I want to bring other people there later on. And as many eyes as we can get on there, and as many brains on this problem as possible. And ultimately what I'd like to have is some people that are very good at some sort of technical analysis, whatever they might be in their field. I talked to a local surveyor. Hopefully I'll be able to meet up with him. I would like to start getting some topography information. So that we can put a lot more stuff together. One of the things that I'm going to get tomorrow is that will definitely happen is I will have a drone in front of that freaking window looking out in the direction where Trump was, because I don't think there's a clear shot there to begin with. I think there's a 6-foot fence. I know there's a 6-foot fence there. I just don't think, I think that portion of the building, you can see that it definitely, part of the building is like below grade. And then, the rest of that terrain slopes toward the building, and the other terrain is higher. So I want to try to get a sense of that. I actually plan on bringing a laser level, and if I can get onto that fence, and I want to see exactly where that laser level is actually projecting a laser onto
the building.
I want to see what that height is, for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think that the difference, most people think that Crooks was way up here and Trump's way down here. I don't think that terrain actually indicates that. I think that Trump's head was around 11 feet. He was on a stage that was definitely over 4 foot, probably around 5 foot. If you look at the stage, I've took a lot of time looking at that and looking at people standing next to it. So he was on about a 5 foot stage. So his head was around 11 foot. And I think where Crooks was not as elevated above Trump, in my opinion, based on what I can see, than that most of us think he was. So,
all right,
there's that.
Going to address this.
Yeah. So
they're referring to Crooks here, right?
Yeah. Is it likely with CIA no social media presence? What are the photos of his room concerning? Blah. All right. I don't know that we know this. And here's why when it comes to no social media presence, because this has happened with other active shooters in the past where suddenly
their profiles are
everything gets freaking wiped, right? That's something we do know happens. So I don't know what kind of social media presence he had. And I don't think any of us really know. I think that I agree with everybody's opinion on this is that, the problem here is the FBI hasn't been forthcoming and DOJ in general hasn't been forthcoming. So it allows all this speculation. At the same time, they could be releasing everything. And I don't think most people on this, that are watching this right now would believe anything they put out anyhow. I mean, what do you guys like? If you don't believe the FBI or you think there's a conspiracy where the FBI or the government had some sort of involvement with this, I mean, if suddenly
you think they're going to release information,
like, hey, you know what?
There
was 2 different types of rounds used. That's not. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. It'd be interesting if they did. I mean, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that happened. Like, even if you're 2 morons and you want to, set up this thing where one of you is going to get away and one of you is not, you're going to use the same round. You're going to use the same ammo. So, the other part of it too, and this is legitimate, like it's going to take time. Even if the FBI was going to be 100% forthcoming, and we know they're not going to be, to do a legitimate investigation, it is going to take more time than I think we're willing to give them. But they haven't earned it either. They haven't earned that. They have lost all trust because we know we've caught them in many, many lies. Like that's, I mean, again, if they're paying me to be a glowy, I'm not a very good one. What?
Just more 43 trips to a shooting range that the Department of Homeland Security frequents, plus $1.5 million in an offshore account in Crook's name. Do we have any evidence of this offshore account?
So this offshore account is total horseshit as far as I can see, Chris. I looked into this. The only thing that has been said on an offshore account or accounts, encrypted accounts, okay, those are specifically referencing to messaging apps and or gaming apps. Somehow somebody took this offshore account thing or this encrypted accounts. They were specifically talking about messaging apps and possibly gaming apps, and then turned it into bank accounts. And then there was people putting out like specific information, like there's like $300,000 in the Swede account. Like, how the F did they get that information? Like,
I think this is a case of them trying to make information to back up a theory of, he was paid by the government. It's probably in an offshore account.
I think it's one of 3 things are all. Okay. Either that is government disinformation that they're putting out to make people look stupid. All right. They're going to delegitimize this entire investigation. That's part of it. I think it could be, and that could be the government. I think the Democrat Party is loving this. I think they're putting out a lot of rumors, bad information, bad photos, whatever else up there, and trying to delegitimize anybody that wants to hold the government accountable. And thirdly, I think there's a real thing where people just have fun with this stuff. There's a lot of kids out there that they'll just make posts up. They'll make documents up. And then there's legitimate state-ran media or state-ran websites. And when I say state-ran, I mean foreign adversaries that love this type of division that's happening with this, where it really has turned into Republican versus Democrat, it shouldn't be, but it is, because the Democrats on the other side of that, their conspiracy is, and I get it in my feed all the time, like Trump set this up. Trump, like I get it. I get like 10 of those messages down in the comments a day. Like, come on, Trump was big into professional wrestling. There was no blood on his hand at first. Like, folks, the body does a lot of weird stuff. Sometimes you get and look, I don't believe that it was probably a through and through. The angle wasn't even right for like it to be a through and through. I think we probably have a grazing wound on Trump. So it's not going to bleed at first. And then, but the head, there's a lot of capillaries in the ear, and his blood pressure spiked, I'm sure. So what we have is very little to no bleeding at first, and he gets down there bending over. They had him hunched over. You guys saw that. We have all this blood. He has a huge, adrenaline burst. Well, that too. But I mean, he has a huge, he just got freaking shot at.
Yeah.
He had a huge adrenaline burst. His blood pressure spiked and suddenly he's bleeding all over the place. There's nothing freaking magical about that. That's normal human physiology.
And I'd like to say something just from personal experience where people keep bringing up, oh, he shot at the same range as the feds. He shot at the same range as the feds. Let me just make it clear. I can name off several ranges personally that I know that are private ranges that civilians go to on a daily basis that at some point or another, and usually pretty frequently, are rented out by some government agency as needed. It is not a off the wall, unusual, crazy thing for feds to use a gun range.
As a matter of fact, any good range,
government agencies are renting it out
at point.
Any decent range.
Any decent range.
Some
point, a government and or state agency is going to be renting that out.
I'm not saying that there's not some correlation there.
Good.
There could be, but I just want to put that out there that freaking every range I know, honestly, that I can think of at some point or another has been frequented by some government agency.
No, I don't buy that Iran was behind this. I just don't. I think it's more likely that look, what I'm not willing to take off the table, and I've said this 100 times, is I don't think there was a second shooter. I think what we see is what we get right now. I'm just being honest with you guys. I know that doesn't gain me any favor. With that being said, I do think it's a very real possibility, a much more likely possibility that this guy was, he was what we saw exactly in Michigan, where we had a conspiracy of like 14 people and 12 of them were FBI and or FBI assets. And the two guys got, they basically
talked into.
Yeah, it was beyond entrapment. It was nonsense. Like, and luckily, I believe they got convicted, and I think that got overturned. And I think the last thing was that they were, they're free now. I would love to interview those guys. So I do think probably not. I don't even know that there's nothing going to be. Look,
I never thought about that.
Like if your parents. If your kids, let's just say that, whether you are glad they did it or not, I don't know what his parents feel, but if your kids were involved in something as big and national as this, would you have an obituary for your kid? No, of course you wouldn't.
Not a public published one.
And this is the weird thing that I see with this, guys, is that like people are pointing all these weird, like, oh, look, this is, and I'm not making fun of.
His parents went grocery shopping and they had a cart full of groceries. Oh my God, that's proof that he was paid. Like they went grocery shopping.
Yeah.
Like,
so
I don't know.
It's okay on the M500.
Maybe they get money from
keep it civil over the comments, folks.
Yeah. Or you'll just get banned.
Yeah, we'll just ban you. I don't really care. Look, I want to have good discourse with people I disagree with, and happy to do that. And as a matter of fact, one of the things I was thinking about going on in this, if there's somebody that has a really good articulate, presentation with some evidence or whatever, you don't even have to have what I consider evidence. I won't say, oh, that's not evidence, but if you got a good argument for a second shooter, put something together. I'll have you on the podcast and we'll go through it and we'll do all that stuff. Gary, if the buildings across the road from the fairgrounds being covered by one of the police units, which was furthest away from Trump, why wasn't the AGR complex a priority? I don't know, man. Some of those things I don't have answers to. I think it definitely should have been. I think a lot of this is complacency, man.
Yeah.
I really do. I think they, part of it is they probably weren't getting the assets they needed.
Planning.
part of it is, they've done thousands of these, types of events. When's the last time you heard of a Secret Service situation? I think, here's the thing. Here's what Secret Service are supposed to be able to defend against, like literally an Al-Qaeda raid, like an Al-Qaeda assault force. And clearly they can't. Clearly what we think their capabilities were and what they are, there's a huge divide between those two. I mean, we have CAT teams, counter assault teams. They're supposed to counter assault a team, right? And be able to do a counter assault. The reality is that all this could have been prevented if they had counter surveillance teams out there. If they would have had other assets out there, like 5 more people with the right training and the right placement, could have prevented this. So look, you're not going to hear from me that they weren't grossly inept. I think everybody was. I think they didn't have the right resources on the ground. I think all those things, do I think, is there even a little bit of me that thinks like the counter sniper teams, wanted these guys to kill Trump? I just don't believe that. And I just work with, most of these guys are former military. And that is a personal bias of mine. I admit that. But there's no evidence for that either. I mean, being fair, there's absolutely no evidence. It's absolutely suspicious they spend that much time. I disagree with that, Rob. I mean, like,
you could paint that either way.
There's lots of guys that have.
And what is he saying is too much time at the range? The 43 times he went to the range or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
look,
maybe he really likes shooting. Maybe he knew he was planning to do something and wanted to practice. That doesn't necessarily mean that he was there making contact with all these government agencies. Maybe he was.
Realistically, everything that guy did was suspicious, right?
Yeah, he looked suspicious.
But what are we proposing here? Are we proposing, hey, you know what?
That never had a girlfriend is suspicious.
I mean, what are we proposing here? That like we need to limit Americans' range time. If you can't go more than 3 times a month or whatever it is, like,
or it's suspicious.
Let me tell you something. There's lots of guys I know that go to the range, 5 times a week, 4 times a week. I have my own range. I built my own range out here. Plus we have a 800-acre training facility that we do all our training on, where we have our shop daily on, where we, and those are used by civilians and law enforcement and feds and everything else in between there. There's 4 other ranges around this in this area. Before we had like a place that we called home that we had a contract with that we were working with, we went, we basically just rented space at all these different ranges around the area within, like 2 hours or so. And, every single one of those ranges, I know freaking feds, rented at some point.
Yeah.
And we're also an hour and a half from DC. So, but most good ranges, I mean, there's obviously FBI and every other federal agency has field offices in just every place. So if there's a decent range in an area, especially that has good pistol bays where they can do qualifications, if they have sniper teams, that there's a long range place, any place that has long range is going to get rented by the feds at some point, because there's very few of those. Between the military and law enforcement, local law enforcement and federal law enforcement, there's very few of those places, and they are constantly looking for places to go because they're either booked up or they just don't have the facility that they need.
And I think too, I'd like to say, like, if you don't have personal experience and knowledge of this stuff, sure, you can look at it and say he was at the same range as this department, and that seems super suspicious. I would agree if I didn't have personal knowledge of being around so many ranges.
And being in the industry that we are,
and just having that personal knowledge and firsthand experience, I would 100% agree that it looks really suspicious that,
Brian, I don't give a shit what you think.
Yeah, just this guy's an idiot.
Away. Like, if you don't believe us,
then
there's other things to watch.
This is probably he's probably being paid by what a crowdsource or some bullshit to be here.
I do want to.
If I was running this op, I would pull you off right now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Good thing you're not, Brian. You're not running any ops.
Anyways, so one thing I do want to, at the very beginning of this, somebody said there were some allegations made by that guy, the Chihuahua that owned by Cullen, keeps yapping his suck. But these comments are mostly nonsense. Dear people, understand this man knows a lot more about guns and shooting than you dropped. Okay. Skipper, you were actually the one. If you will, I asked, you actually said, I appreciate that defense. You said that there were some allegations made by what's his face. I'll happily address those if there is any of those allegations. Whatever he said. There's a couple that I know that he was saying directly before I blocked him that I would happily address, and whatever else you guys want to bring.
From what we're hearing is like anybody that says anything against him, he immediately messages and says, 100%. I'm going to sue you if you don't take that down. Like he just can't take any type of pushback.
William, I want to say that there's a couple things going on with YouTube. And look, we've never been a friend of YouTube. 90% of our videos have always been demonetized immediately because we're gun content. Even though at one time this has changed, right? So there were these rules that you had to follow with gun content, and I would follow those to a T to get the video monetized. I've never, look, I don't make money off of YouTube or clicks or views or whatever else. That's not how we make our money. We have a business, we have a training business, we have a company, we do some other things. We've always lost money on YouTube. And I've never wanted to get videos monetized for the money. As most of you are smart enough to know, the thing is, if the video is monetized, it gets pushed. What sucks and has always sucked for us is that, I spend a lot of time and effort making really good videos. I invest a lot of money in good gear because in learning, I did like 3 years ago, I knew nothing about audio video. I spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money so that we can make good content. Because, yeah, part of it is definitely advertising our business and our training and what we do. That's, it's not 100% altruistic or anything like that. But the other part of it is because I genuinely, I want people to love guns and Second Amendment in this country and the Constitution as much as I do. That's what it's always been about. So, when your video is demonetized, they crush it in the algorithm. Like that is not,
which means it doesn't get seen.
Yeah, it doesn't get seen. Like they're not making money on it. So they're not going to push in the algorithm, which means it's your videos don't get shared no matter how good they are. Or no matter how many people would like to see your videos, they're not going to get shared. So, this past month, yeah, we had a couple of videos that got 1 million views that were surprisingly monetized. We had like 2 videos that got almost 1 million views that were both demonetized. So we made a little money on this month. I'll be as transparent as I possibly can. What I will tell you is on average, we've made around $600 a month on YouTube.
And it took a long time to build up to that.
Yeah, I mean, over the course of probably 3.5 years, I bet if we'd average out maybe $200 a month, something like that.
Yeah.
So we've always lost money, and not only do I lose money on YouTube, but I also lose there's opportunity loss because of the time they could be doing. But I wouldn't stop doing it because, and I don't care if these videos get viewed or whatever else. I want to do it because I want to share my passion of firearms. And my political views. And I want, one of the things that you guys are on here and why people are on social media all the time is because you want to be part of the conversation. Well, I do too. And the best way that I know to do it, as much as I've always hated YouTube, never wanted to get on YouTube, I found out how effective it was to getting our voices out and, and hopefully.
And all that to say that YouTube is not our friend either. I am curious to be more direct with William's comment. Are they sending you a notification that they're banning your comment, or you're just not able to see it after you comment?
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest, I've left comments on videos and then go back to like look at them and I can't find them for a little bit, and then I refresh and they're there. And then
he's right.
I don't know. I'm just asking.
I'm telling you from personal experience. Like my comments get removed, and it's like, hey man, high five, thanks for watching. And they'll get removed. The other thing that's been happening with all of my comments when
someone else said in the comments they were watching comments be deleted real time.
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. The other thing that is really strange and it's really disruptive and it sounds silly, but most of the time I'm trying to reply directly to people's comments in YouTube, and it doesn't allow me to have the @ like that person. So it doesn't post as a reply, and it just posts as a comment down. And I'll even erase it, go back and try it over and over again. And that happens all the time. The other thing, without a doubt, people are contacting me regularly that their subscription is being canceled on YouTube. So like, they're subscribed to us, and then they, suddenly they're not. The other thing definitely is happening without a doubt is if you hit the bell icon, people are not getting notifications of our videos. So, that's just the game that we're playing. one of the soft imperatives is know your operational environment, and that's our operational environment. They're not going to play fair. They don't like conservatives. They don't like people that like guns. That's just part of it. So I want to continue to push people over to Rumble, but Rumble kind of sucks right now, and it definitely sucks. We haven't made one single dime off of Rumble. They owe us several $100s, and we can't. Yeah. It's a long story.
What is this super chat up here?
Where is that? Oh, super chat.
Yeah.
It's Gray Hughes.
Aw.
We were just talking about you, Gray.
I wonder if he heard.
Convert your live streams into video. Ooh, there you go. That is a great point, Gray. That is you're so smart. Gray, you need to come on the show. We'd love to have you. I'm not even showing his comment right here. It's just showing to us. I don't know how to get to that. There we go. Starred.
You go
Gray.
down.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, Gray Hughes investigates. Keep on trucking convert your live streams into video only and have it approved for monetization before uploading it after answering their questions. Great advice. Gray, I'd love to have you on for just really a discussion, not even an interview. You're doing some amazing work out there. And if you guys aren't following Gray Hughes Investigates, get your ass over there, hit the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Yeah, appreciate you stopping in.
I wish YouTube would delete Brian on the Waters comments.
That's another thing. I try real hard not to ban people, but I can only look at stupid so much. And then you're gonna get banned. And look, at the end of the day, this is my channel.
Yeah,
I want to have
people like free speech, but
I want to have open discourse with you. But if you're gonna come to my channel with my free content and just be disrespectful, F off. Go watch somebody else, man. I don't have to put up with that. So there's that. And I'm probably petty. I'm a little petty on the inside. That's okay. That's just me. I'm just being real with you guys. Summer knows. Summer knows I'm petty.
I'm laughing because I know you can be petty.
Oh, I can definitely be petty. I don't know.
I can too, baby. That's why we get along so
or good. Whatever his name was. Was it Skipper?
I think it was Skipper. I don't know if he
Skipper ever answered. All right, so I'm going to address what I know from his allegations.
Hold on, I'll try to find it.
Look, I know that Jason was saying that I was using photoshopped pictures in the video analysis for the Max Urich. I was using Photoshop. They were obviously photoshopped, and I'm going to tell you why that's relevant and why it's irrelevant to what I was doing. So number one, there was one picture that was photoshopped. We know that the blood was removed. I did look at other footage, other videos, and I tried to make sure that nothing else was photoshopped with that. But it was irrelevant because the whole point of that was I was finding the most compelling social media posts and sites that were talking about this, that were making this argument. This is Max Urich. The shooter was actually, they were doing this physical comparison analysis. I used their evidence. It probably, as a matter of fact, on one of the photos of Max Urich that they showed, I am 99.5% that there was some erasure of his ears to try to make it look like Crooks's ears. But the point of this is I was using their evidence to debunk their claims. Because that would be the other argument is you were using these other ones when they're used, I was using their evidence to debunk their claims. So if they're photoshopped, that one was definitely photoshopped. I think there was other photoshops, but that was the point. As I was using their evidence to debunk their claims. So if you think that is uncouth, wrong, or whatever else, look, I'll be 100% honest with you guys on any of that stuff. I am not here to lie. Don't care.
I'm sorry. Is she asking if we're twins?
Yes, we are. She's my sister. You're my sister. You're my sister.
I like this one. I like how the wife and I are drinking and cooking in the kitchen while we all. Thank you, Stitches. We appreciate that. Tell your wife we said hello as well.
This is West Virginia. You're allowed to do that.
And
no, we were never related.
Look at this. You and Jeff getting along for once. We love you, Jeff. Yep. Honestly.
We do too.
We have to come down in Georgia and visit you.
Yep. For those of you that don't know, Summer is from Georgia. I grew up in Texas. I'm originally from the Detroit area. My dad still lives up there.
No, we're twins, remember?
We are twins. Definitely. Anyways. just leave that alone. Anyways, so I met her when I was in airborne school. She was down there looking for some airborne guys. Luckily, I was one of them.
Oh yeah,
I was the one.
I love the military life.
What did Gray say?
Time. Something about recording the chat. He told me he was recording the chat and get us in trouble. LOL.
Please pick us apart. Pick us apart, Gray. If anybody could, I bet he could.
Who, Gray?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Gray's on.
Here we go. She's Lita, just to clarify, we're married. We are not related at all.
Yeah. We have 2 boys.
Yep. 2 boys, and they're super smart. There's no genetic anomalies there from being closely related. Anyway.
Any other good ones down there?
No.
Agent Smith, the barrel heated up from
Karen, can you please not type in all caps? Every one of your comments has been in all caps. You don't have to yell at us. All right. Yeah, we got some wow, Chris.
Well, thank you very much, Chris.
We thank you, Chris.
Yep, we appreciate that. Yep.
Prodby says, anything about all this that doesn't add up to you? I think all of your videos point to that, about all this not quite adding up, but I'll let you address that.
I think he's asking me more specifically, like, I mean, to me, the biggest thing is that security was grossly inept. That's the biggest thing. So I think the opportunity was there, and then, you know, you just had a whack job. I mean, basically what this guy was, I mean, if you ever looked up, you know, a mass shooter in a dictionary, this guy's picture would be there. His, you know, personal, his psychological, whatever, his profile, his lifestyle, like incel, you know, that's who that was. And instead of, you know, going to shoot up something else, he went to a Trump event, and probably was politically, I mean, you almost got to be politically motivated. But then again, you know, it could be somebody that just wanted to be famous. There's a bunch of weirdos out there. So that's the main thing. Do I think, I have no, and this is me speculating, I got no evidence that, you know, he was pushed by the FBI or prodded along by the government or anything else. But I do think that's a very real possibility. I think, to me, that's the most likely conspiracy outside of intention. I think at this point, just like many of you, I know many of you are like, hey, there was 2 shooters. You're never going to change my mind. And that's fine. To me, the idea that they intentionally and politically, you know, from political motivation, denied Trump assets, I think is, and part of that, I think, is there's a lot of people out there that hoped something like this would happen and hoped they would be successful. So that's the main thing that doesn't add up to me the most. When I look at the individual pieces, I just see incompetence, and I see, you know, and I could be 100% biased, but what I am is I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to continue to look for what I think is real evidence and the truth. So take that for what it is. And if I find evidence of a second shooter, folks, I will be the first to say that.
I want to address a comment right here that's been, Agent Smith is commenting, and he's made several comments about the first 3 shots sounding completely different than the last 5 shots, and it being the first 3 being a whoosh, the last 5 being a clang. And now he's saying we're not asking the right people. I just want to let you know, Gary has spent hours on the phone at this point with very high level,
more than one
audio engineers.
More than one.
Yes, more than one.
But the one that I'm talking about, I was speaking to yesterday, they do forensic analysis for government organizations. They do stuff for Hollywood. They do stuff for video games. They do a lot of stuff. And there is nobody that I've talked to that has more experience in this, and specifically recording and documenting gunshots. It's one of the things that they are kind of known for, and they do. Not everything they do kind of is the perfect thing, but more perfect than I've heard of anybody else. They spend a lot of time recording different guns, different gunshots from different angles, ricochets. Like, what they do is pretty amazing. And if anybody would have conclusive analysis, it would be them, in my opinion. And but I've also talked to a lot of other engineers, and the problem is that we have this analysis, this audio analysis that came out, that people said, and maybe they believed, I'm not saying that they're lying, but they said it was very conclusive. And I'm telling you right now, that is definitely, at a minimum, that is definitely not a like even like a majority, much less, you know, something that all these different audio analysis folks, from audio engineers to people that do other things, like that is not a consensus by any stretch of the means. So there is definitely, I believe there's definitely room for a lot of room for error on that. We don't know which direction Crooks was shooting those other 5 shots. He could have shot it right in the air. I don't think that's true. I'm not saying, I'm just saying we don't know. But I think there's a lot of good things, and I've talked to a lot of people who said, hey, would this change it? Yes. Would this change the tone? Yes. Would this make it sound differently? Yes. And if we remember like the first few days, there was all these people coming out with these audio analysis that were putting, you know, one shooter at like 400 yards, one shooter at 200 yards. Like it was all jumbled up. It was all mishmash. And we're still in a situation where you have some really good people, some really good channels out there that I think are sincere, and I don't think are trying to mislead anybody. They have all done audio analysis, and they've all come to different conclusions. So that tells me that the audio analysis isn't overall conclusive to begin with. So, you know, we're talking about different, you know, and I'll even say this for me. Summer, do you remember the first night so we were coming home from the range, and this, we were just wrapping up, and
literally you just dropped off the range.
We were driving home, and I had heard about it when we were still at the shop, coming off the range, and then I was like, then a friend of ours called and said, hey Gary, you should do a live stream on this and go around this. And so we were watching the replays. It was right around 7 p.m. I think.
No, it was a little later.
Okay, let's say 8:30.
I think you got to the shop around, it was probably around 8:30.
So we got here at 8:30, and we're watching replay after replay from Fox News. We're switching back and forth between CNN and all these other ones. And I'm documented saying this, and because all we had at the time was the audio from Trump's mic, and we heard the shots go off. And do you remember what caliber I said? I like, man, that sounds awfully like. Do you remember what I said? 22. All right. From Trump's mic,
see, I listened.
It seemed really suppressed, quiet. It sounded like rimfire to me. And then the next day, I thought about it because I constantly have like all these different mics that do all kinds of different things, right? So the next day I was thinking about, I was like, you know what? Again, you know, Trump's mic is a hypercardioid mic, so it's compressing and drowning out the crowd so that we can hear Trump. So I guarantee you what I'm hearing is a compressed version of that. So no wonder it sounded so much quieter than it actually did. And then later on, we got other audio and footage, and it was center fire rounds. But that first night, it did not sound like, from that first audio clip that we got, it didn't sound like, it sounded like rimfire to me.
I just want to quickly jump over here. There's a couple of people that we really appreciate your support. It does take a lot of time and effort, and you may get mad at me for saying this. I'll just be honest with you, and I even talked with Gary about this yesterday. He's spent a lot of time since this happened into reading emails, looking at video, looking at the things you guys send him. And honestly, it's taken away a lot of family time. It's taken away a lot of his time from the business. And, you know, that time is money. So I say all that to say, we really appreciate the support that you guys are sending our way. We appreciate you watching the videos, liking the videos, subscribing. All those little things will help us.
The other thing that I have to give a shout out to is all the folks that look, if you go to our Patreon, I have some things set up just for Project 713. If you want to donate,
supporting the
a couple dollars here and there, and we'll talk a little bit more about Project 713. But we've had a lot of folks that are donating on that at many different tiers. I have like a $5 a month thing. You know, we have Bernard here, did $50 a month. A bunch of folks that you know are putting their money where their mouth is. You know, I mean, this stuff is going to take money, and I think future investigations are going to take money. And I want to turn this into something like Project Veritas or some of these other big, but specifically to investigate situations like this where we can get truth and accountability. Because what we're doing right now, and many of you are too now, like this is what the media used to do. Like we're doing investigations when we have the FB freaking I
like
set
60
up,
minutes over here.
billions of dollars. We're doing what ABC, NBC, Fox, all these companies should be doing, and that is already It's yesterday's news. Nobody's covering this stuff, and it's really, really pretty ridiculous. Yes, Vet Vegas. If you watch that first audio on TV, it was
really quiet.
It was very quiet.
Yeah.
So you can talk shit if you want, but it's true. It was very quiet. And I was wrong. I'm sitting here telling you guys right here,
and he didn't even have to bring it up, but he did.
But again, I heard other audio the following day that is what it is. Yeah, that's something that we need to look into. And I think,
what is this referring to? I'm uneducated on this.
So apparently, like the day of, they shorted the True Social stock. And the idea is like, hey, if Trump died, the stock is going to fall, precipitously. And basically they were making essentially bets on that. And, they come up with weak excuse.
Who is they? You're just saying the market.
BlackRock. BlackRock.
Gotcha.
So the other part of this is, that's one thing that we haven't talked enough about. I brought up.
Is this confirmed that this happened?
They made an excuse saying that I think that the thing was that they meant to add another zero. Like, I don't know. It was a bad excuse.
Gotcha.
It was a bad excuse. The other thing that I think that we need to look at too is like, there's a corporate element of this that I don't think should be overlooked.
Which is why people are bringing up the fact that this guy was in a BlackRock commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
Rob asked, how do you donate? Rob, if you go to
our Patreon,
if you Google Paramount Tactical Patreon, and then you can see there the different tiers that are available, or
if you go down into the link in the description,
of our videos,
it'll take you right to the Patreon. And again, that's something I often ask. Allison, that's a great question.
We get a lot of people in the comments that should make their own videos.
There's a lot of folks. I don't care if you're a gun guy or this or whatever else, man, get out there, make your own video. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear a compelling argument out there. Yeah. So get out there and do that. I don't have time to do this, but I still do this.
Yeah, that's what my point I was making earlier. You're taking a lot of time away from other things that are very important to me, to our family, to our livelihood. And
so I got this figured out today, because I hadn't really looked into the click to bang thing, and it's not something that I normally would look into, but I knew there was some other suggested muzzle velocities that were really low, and I didn't know if they were saying click to bang was 0.22 or the actual time of flight was 0.22. So I brought this up today, and I end up actually doing actually did an analysis on this. Let me go to my profile here. I'll pull this up. If you're not following us on X, you should. Go to, just search Gary Melton, Paramount Tactical. Trying to go to my own account here. Here we go. Profile. Here we go. I'll pull this up right now, and I will read this to you, and I will share the link that we got here. Of course, I can't find it now. Anyways, on there in the comments, I definitely posted the analysis of that. And what I came up with was a muzzle velocity of around 2,700 feet per second, it makes sense. All right. So after doing my own calculations, it came up with 2,700 feet per second. The way that I did that was I took the basically the difference between the click to the bang and calculated the distance that we had, turned that into feet. And then I'll put it up there, but I got it all right here. So it basically comes out to 2,700 feet per second. The delta between the delta between the speed of sound to where we hear the sonic crack going over the microphone. That's really what it comes down to. But if you go to my Twitter account, I'll make sure I post that. I think that was in a comment or a reply to somebody, so I'll make sure that's up there. But it comes out to about 2,700 feet per second. Opinions are absolutely welcome. I never said that.
I think he's referring to some people jumping him in the comments.
Opinions are absolutely welcome.
Like we said earlier, keep it civil, but we're trying to address.
Yeah, and that being said too, for other people that might get annoyed by some people's comments, let them, as long as they're not being an ass, let them talk. Trump mic had audio compression and/or peak limiting being broadcast, probably both. This is external dynamic processing, not necessarily a microphone anomaly. So audio may be less compressed. And that was my point. I could tell that the shots were compressed compared to you know, again, I'm sure that's a hypercardioid mic that he's using. So
whoa. You're skipping a very important comment.
Oh,
there.
here we go. Here,
Girl next door.
Girl next door. I give a shout out to your wife for being a great supporter of your passion.
Absolutely, you can.
Yeah. You know,
you don't have to make a comment.
No, I want to. I want to give you some credit here. I couldn't do this without her, without a doubt. So, you know, I had the vision for this, and you know, I did work as a contractor. I got out of the military. I worked as a contractor for Department of State as a special tactics instructor. I did that for 9 years. I was a unit chief there. And then that job, they were moving that position to another place I wasn't going. So I took another job doing security work for Department of State, also a contractor, traveling to embassies and consulates, doing security work overseas. So I was gone like 60% of the time. By that point, we were at a point with Paramount, and I hated that. I hated that job. I hated working for anybody else, to be honest with you. And Summer knows this. But I knew we were at a point. For me. we were at a point with Paramount that I knew I could go full time. And so I did. That was what, last year? Last year in January, February.
Yeah.
So anyways, we've been doing Paramount full time, and primarily what we do is, number one, we are a training company first and foremost. So, you know, we train military, law enforcement, and civilians. Somebody asked me the other day if I've ever had a government contract. The answer is no, don't have a government contract. But we train military, law enforcement, and civilians in handgun, carbine, basic through advanced, CQB, long range. Long range is kind of what I'm known for on the channel. If you're interested in learning all those things, we'd love to have you out. Most of our instructors are former special operations. All of our instructors are required to have a operational background as well as a professional instructor background. So they've had to work for law enforcement, federal, as an instructor, or military. And most of those people, they've kind of done it all. We have some really talented instructors. Med courses, we do also high performance driving courses, low light courses, all those things. And then we do a lot of retail.
Rob said his wife is the most tolerable boss he has.
Yeah. If you're ever in the if you're ever in the DC area, we're in West Virginia, just outside of DC, near Winchester, Virginia. We'd love for you to come visit our shop and our training facility. And I say it's ours. It's where we're located. We don't own the training facility, but we have access to full 800 acres of training facility, multiple ranges. We do all of our long range down at Pig River, Precision down near Roanoke, Virginia. That's a
beautiful area.
That is a really beautiful area. And now we're trying to move to like the Outer Banks, because
I love the beach. Is there interest in a training and gun store in Outer Banks? We should take a poll. I'm kidding.
Yep. What else we got going on, folks? What else haven't we covered? Anything?
I would like to ask you, and I don't know if you even want to go into this.
I don't. You're blocked. You're blocked from the chat.
I see so many comments about the white van. What do you know about the white van?
So the white van, so this is part of where this Maxwell Urick thing, I guess it had Arizona plates.
Is it Maxwell Urick from Arizona?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have photos of this van with the Arizona plates?
What's that?
Do we have photos of this white van with the Arizona plates in Pennsylvania?
Supposedly there is. I haven't. That is an element that I don't know, man. I haven't been that interested in, to be honest with you. Maybe that's wrong, but I just haven't been interested in that. I don't even know how that's related, and maybe I should, and maybe I will look into that. But I've been consumed with what I do on this channel, because there's a lot of people that love our gun content. They're like, Gary, I thought you did guns, and why are you doing conspiracy theories now? You didn't say it in that exact voice, but
don't worry. He that's what he says. I sound like
Hi,
too.
my name's Summer. I do cool stuff.
Anyways,
I do.
The point being, this channel, I do what I want to do, right? If I want to make a video about guns, I do that. If I want to make a video about a specific gun, I do that.
Let me tell you what, folks, this man does what he wants. And if
I do what I want, and I buy what I want.
And if you don't like it, too bad.
You know, and not to say that I'm not, I do a lot of things because people suggest them, whether the videos
That's
or,
true.
You know, I definitely do that. So I'm not just an ass, but at the same time, you know, if something I find interesting, and I think this is super important, more important than guns right now. With that being said, you'll definitely see more gun content coming. We're not going to stop doing that. And, we're going to stay on this as well.
Rob said you should get a job doing cartoon voices.
Hi, I'm Gary.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you, bud.
Yeah, man. Is that our friend Chuck Cooley?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can't see the little picture from here.
Chuck, Gary called you little.
He is not a little dude.
Just kidding. Whoa, no, I'm just kidding.
I'm not running for office, Mark Mullen. That does not.
We've had many people try to talk him into
it. It's
a no-go for him.
That is not something.
He would be a very frustrated Gary.
Click on that, Vernon Stevens.
Where?
Vernon up.
Why was that
one right there?
Counter sniper.
Why was the counter sniper made to stand down? No counter snipers were told to stand down. We covered this. Matter of fact, that's not in their directives. It's not in their rules of engagement. Look, I truly believe that. So first of all, what we know, I think this is as confirmed as it can be, is that the Northern Sniper team did not have a visual through the trees of crooks.
And we've confirmed that from firsthand sources. Is that correct?
Well, we've confirmed that with everything from drone footage and everything else from that exact position, that the tree is clearly in the way of. And look, it doesn't take a freaking tactical genius to get up there and be like, okay, there's my target. There's some guys with guns. I'm going to scoot over to where the trees obscure me and the gun in the guy that I want to shoot is still visual. So that sniper team had that sector. That's what they were looking. They probably were getting some communications. We all know that the comms suck between the local LE. The other thing that I have heard through Secret Service was that the call that they got on the radio was that, hey, they had a situation going on over there, but they had it handled. I don't think at that time that they knew he had a gun. Because we saw where the first cop, we saw from the body cam footage, the first cop that saw he had a gun didn't even freaking radio to anybody. That's there was other cops on the periphery on the other side of that were up there looking. All right. Well, when we already had one cop that confirmed that this guy had a gun, he ran the other way. I have a real issue with that. And then, went and got his own firearm. I never saw in that footage where he actually radioed that to everybody else.
I thought he was going to be a one-man show.
I think, what we did here is we heard civilians saying there's a guy on the roof. We saw cops going on the west side of that to respond to that. And I think that's where that call came from. Like, there's probably a jackass on the roof. There's something going on. We got to handle it.
Which was one of the first things I brought up. And I think I even brought up.
Let me just finish this question.
Okay.
So the point is that Crooks was in their sector. We had the other sniper team that had the opposite side of the sector. And really looking at that, they should have had cross coverage. The sniper team in the south should have been looking to their right, and they would have seen a lot more. They would have had a lot more visual. And then the northern sniper team should have been looking toward the south. They should have switched sectors. They would have been able to see a lot more. I don't know why they didn't do that. That's what I would have done. But that's, again, I'm armchair quarterbacking there. At that point, I don't think that the southern sniper team, number one, they had to completely reorient. And then they had to find what was being talked about. That's not super easy to do. And especially I know you guys think that the roof line is super obvious, and I guess to some extent it is, but there's also, trees out there, other things. We don't know where they were first looking. I don't believe for a second that the counter sniper team just sat there. And number one, that is not their rules of engagement. They have 100% operational control, the counter sniper teams, individually, not even as a team. There is no sniper spotter setup. Both of those are spotters. Both of those are snipers. So if they have to engage independently, multiple targets, they can. They have the absolute operational authority to pull the trigger or to not pull the trigger. There never was a stand down for Secret Service counter snipers because a stand down order doesn't exist, and they don't have to listen to anybody else if they want to shoot either. So they have operational control. So we need to understand that. And that's something I've addressed multiple times and continues to be, urban legend. And that's one of the problems with this is people are like old information that has, I know I've cleared it up and I end up repeating it. Now, what were you saying, babe?
I was just saying that was one of the first things I brought up, that if something was coming over the radio, there's from local PD to Secret Service, hey, there's a situation over here. They should have paused the rally and immediately
100%
got Trump off. And that's just yet another failure.
That, by the way, is the SOP of doing things.
Right. Just another failure. That's my point.
But I also don't think that they had direct comms. I don't even know how that information got pushed, but I did hear from within the Secret Service, that's what was communicated to them. And that might have been 30, 40 seconds. Like, I don't even know what the time delay was. So, there's that whole thing.
Girl next door says, I still have so many questions. I mean, this whole thing is Nothing but questions, to be honest with you.
And the fact is, because we have an informational void, it just all of our minds are spinning, right?
Yeah,
we're all just doing conjecture and speculation, and on
coming
top
up with
of
more and more questions. Why this? Why that? Why not that?
There's people that still believe there's somebody on the water tower. Like, I mean, if you squint your eyes just right, you can see Bigfoot with a Dishka up there.
This is kind of a good point here, that all of this information void is leading to us spinning our wheels while the next things incubate and hatch.
Yeah. And, and this was something that, Summer, as she kind of relayed to you guys, like, basically she said to me more than once, like, how much time are you going to spend on this? And I think this is important, and here's why. I think this is our chance to hold the government somewhat accountable, or to prove that they're lying in as many different places as possible, to where it'll start opening people's eyes. And hopefully, and this is probably my own, I don't know, ideas of grandeur, right? That we can hold somebody accountable and get some people fired. And I know that seems very little, and to many of you, but to these people, like, it's a big deal. Like, if we get, like, Mayorkas should be fired. President Biden should be hung over his shoulders, and this should be damaging him and Kamala Harris politically really hard, and it's not. But if this was President Trump, and I've said this before, if this was President Trump, and this had happened on his watch,
to a Democratic candidate,
let's say it was Biden while he was running, like, he, somebody almost had a successful assassination attempt on Biden, and he,
heads would have been rolling.
Well, this would be, you would hear it on the news of how incompetent President Trump is every single day, and this would be 24/7 nonstop. They would be beating him over the head with it, and something like that needs to happen, or at least we need to open up the American people's eyes that, hey, you know what, we just need to bring the truth to it.
I'm going to be a negative Nelly here, kind of like you are about the future of our country, but I'm just going to put it out there and say that no matter what is brought out, what is proven, what anybody's investigation brings, there's going to be no accountability in the government when it comes to this. It's going to be just like the election fraud, where nothing ever happened.
This is why I think something like Project 713 and other great organizations out there, whether it's Veritas, whether it's the Heritage Foundation finding out stuff. There's a couple other ones out there,
but they get painted as crazies too.
Well, they do. But what I'm saying is that what I'd like to do is have an organization like Project 713, where we're set up to do a shadow investigation of anything like this, and we can at least call out their bullshit, or they're going to have to get better at hiding it. I'm not saying that's a perfect answer, but it's the best answer that I have.
I guess what you didn't let me finish is, I guess at least the people can be informed as to what's going on, even if there's no accountability on the government. A reasonable person can be informed about what's actually going on.
Look, if people knew what I knew and saw the world through my eyes and believed that, hey, at a minimum, we had Trump, they intentionally left Trump vulnerable. So for political reasons, people would see the world differently, and they would vote differently. And I guess that's the best I got.
And to go back to people, accusing you of being a government operative and all this stuff, do you know what Gary is putting at risk by speaking out? Do you know what our family is being put at risk of by us speaking out? Do you know,
folks,
what our business is being put at risk of by us speaking out? Like, we are risking everything. We're risking our family. We're risking our livelihood by talking about this stuff.
Yeah, like there's a real, we have a real concern about,
especially as a mother and a wife. I am worried on a daily.
Well, and to be clear on this, what we're concerned about specifically is backlash, like someone coming in and taking our FFL away. Look, we have a real concern about that.
I'm concerned about it more than that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and then look, when you start dealing with crazies like I've dealt with on X the last few days, and suddenly these people are trolling you and calling you a racist and a Nazi.
They're out to destroy you.
And then they're doing all these things, and they're trying to, damage you from a business standpoint and all these other things. Like, why? Like, why should I do that? Because this is important to me.
And you can bet, like, I'm sitting there watching cameras, looking at stuff.
Yeah, it's not like
I get up in the morning, check all the cameras, see what happened around the house. Not, you know, like.
And you know what? You want to come? Well, let me tell you something. Yeah, like, come at me, bro.
Argentino says if they started messing with you at being admission, you know, they don't see it that way.
Yeah, they don't. Well, and it's not just
they would see the juice was worth the squeeze.
And look, here's the thing, and I've talked about this too. Like, we live in a society, we live in a government where there's so many laws that they can find something on you, no matter how innocent you are, no matter what. And especially when you're dealing with a government entities that can take your license to do business away. You know, that's a real thing, and it's happened, especially under this administration. We've seen more FFL revocations.
Like people, a 400% increase.
Like, they're going after people with FFLs like we've never seen before. It is a direct assault. Well, it's an indirect assault on the Second Amendment because they can't get their gun legislation passed. So, you know, they're going to come after people other ways. But here's the thing. And this is, you know, when that turd bag over on X started threatening to sue me or whatever else. Look, man. You can take everything from a money and material standpoint from me. I couldn't care less. At the end of the day, he'll still be a shitbag. I'll wake up tomorrow. I'll still have my family. I'll still have my integrity, and I'll still have my independence, and I'll have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to actually build back better and make, you know, Gary great and his family great again. Like, I don't care. Take it from me. I'm coming back,
GGA.
Dude. I'm not worried about it. So you can come at me. You can take whatever you think you can take from me. But yeah. So, you know, it doesn't matter to me.
I've told you since I married you, I'd go live in a trailer down by the river with you.
Yeah. What do you think the Secret Service team's members are thinking when nobody's held accountable? Does that hurt? Absolutely. Folks, I actually plan on, we had Mike on, right? If you guys haven't watched my interview with my friend that was a former counter sniper, you need to go watch the interview. It's very revealing. I think it opens your eyes to a lot of things and makes you less ignorant in a lot of assumptions. And I learned a lot from that. You know, being a former sniper, sniper and counter sniper operations are very different. But I've said that before. They are. He was more disgusted. That was like 3 or 4 days after that event. So that was like a lot more has come out. We've had multiple calls, multiple texts like, oh man, I can't believe this. So I want to have him on again. And kind of reassess where we're at in his thoughts, because he is disgusted. I know other people that I've talked to with the Secret Service, they're disgusted. And you know, they are but it's their job and they can't be vocal about those things. You know,
here's something to consider. I'm more of an empath than you, I think, but here's
an empath.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm very empathetic. I ooze empathy.
Here's something I've thought about frequently when it comes to these guys on the ground, these Secret Service agents, is they are being destroyed as a entity. What's the word I'm looking for?
Person?
No.
Individual?
No, I don't mean. I just mean everybody's criticizing the Secret Service right now, right?
Sure.
So I'm sure they're embarrassed to even say, hey, I work for the Secret Service. And that is killing their morale, I'm sure. For the guys that actually have integrity, that actually care about doing a good job, I'm sure that this is killing them. And I kind of feel kind of bad for them.
Yeah. No, like the people that are responsible should be held to account.
Yeah, absolutely.
The failures that they had, I'm
not taking up for the Secret Service at all.
Yeah, they need to be fired. But the problem is this is where my empathy comes in. Is the people on the ground aren't the one making the decision that, hey, you don't get the assets that you need, so they're setting you up for failure. I think that is a real problem. And it's like, yeah, you know what? As a counter sniper, I can only see what I can see. And you know what? Those people should have never made it to the roof. And if we had counter surveillance and the other assets that we normally had, counter sniper response teams, which is a thing, they have entire sections built for that would have stopped that type of thing that weren't there. So, you know, I do have some empathy for those folks. The leaders of the Secret Service, the leaders at the DOJ, the leaders at the FBI, they need to be cleaned house, like they're wholly corrupt. So
apparently we're being super combative and it's unnecessary and unappealing. Okay.
All right.
Go watch something else. I mean,
I don't know what to tell you.
I think we're joking around.
Yeah, joking around.
We're having fun.
I haven't even slapped Summer once.
I know, right?
I would wake up dead.
I'm sitting here showing empathy for people. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, this podcast, this channel is not for everybody, and that's okay.
That's fine. It doesn't.
Yeah, they're 100% cover their own ass. That's what they're doing. And the sad thing is the people on the ground that are bearing the burden of trying to do an impossible job without the assets they need to make sure a site's secure. They're the ones that are going to be the scapegoated as well. They're the ones going to be fired. We saw, Fumbelina, she was the site lead, the chick that couldn't holster her own gun. She's the site lead. Look, I think DEI plays a major, she's not the only one in the Secret Service is that incompetent. There's probably lots of people, and not just women, but there's probably some women out there that shouldn't be there for a multitude of reasons. There's probably lots of dudes out there. It is, folks, it's impossible to fire a federal employee. You need to understand that. Like, it's impossible to fire a federal employee. And if you do fire a federal employee, like Peter Strzok, then the federal government somehow loses a $1.8 million lawsuit. Like, come on. Like, that makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. You can't fire federal employees. That's the problem. All right, folks. Well, I think we covered a lot. We've been on here a long time. And look, we really appreciate all your love and support. If you don't support us, you don't like us, still show up. We're here to talk to you.
Listen to you.
I will listen to you. I'll take your questions.
If we missed any comments, it was not on purpose. There's just a massive amount of comments. We're not trying to ignore anyone. But there's just a massive amount of comments. And if you saw the format and how difficult it is to try to scroll through every comment, you would understand.
Yeah. And
this guy did have a quick question.
Had baffle strike, will dead air repair it?
Oh, God. Just buy another suppressor. So
hold on. Let me pull out my dead air.
Can you touch
yes, you can touch it. So this is my dead air Sandman S. This has flown off of my gun twice, baffle strikes. One time during a course, it was, you lose a lot of cool points as an instructor when you're doing a demo, and your suppressor goes flying downrange.
It came loose one time when I was shooting it.
Yeah. So I do not like their chemo. I don't like dead air suppressors. Yes, they will fix it for you. I had it sent, they got it fixed. It came back, and then I put it back on my gun, and it flew off again, and it's never going on my gun again. So there's that. Look, we are a Thunder Beast Arms suppressor deal. I got some videos in Thunder Beast Arms. Anyways, we are Thunder Beast Arms direct dealer for a reason. I think they make the best suppressors on the market, period. This is the Dominus SR. I would use this over the Sandman S or any other
I can
suppressor
get the
out there.
Sandman S for you, but
yeah, we can get any of them.
Yeah.
But those are the ones I recommend. If you want something else, you come here like, hey, Gary, I just want a Sandman S, or I want this. Even if I hate it, like, man, we'll order it for you, buddy. We'll try to hook you up, take care of you, give you some great customer service at the same time. But it is what it is. Yes, they will. Contact them. They will repair it. They'll actually get it back to you pretty quick. It's just probably going to happen again pretty soon. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that little guy. All right, folks, listen, we really appreciate your time. We appreciate all the love and support. And stay tuned. We'll definitely go into Butler tomorrow. I got to get up bright and early, meet some people, and I'll be there. If you're out in Butler and there's a gun shop I want to go visit, I'm going to go talk to the local law enforcement there, see if I can't, make some friends and get some interviews, get some information, FOIA requests, plan a more robust trip in the future to where we have access to the AGR and the farm show. And we'll just continue doing what we can for as long and as hard as we can. So that's where we're at on this. All right. Well, with that being said, I want you guys to have an awesome week, and you know the deal. Make sure you stay armed, stay ready,